Yeah, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys
Didn't win. I don't know, Jack. It's a big decision.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem with saying space.
Pittsburgh at Buffalo.
Thank you. I thought I was right. So anyway,
Yeah, Mac, you're really interested in these playoffs.
so
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
yes, it's Friday morning here on the Mac and Jack Sports Show, live on National Streaming Sports Roku channel. We're also on the YouTube channel, and of course, we'll be on various platforms as we go throughout the day. A little quick networking note: there is some kind of problem with Microsoft 365 that's affecting airlines, banks, and some media outlets. So I don't know how far we're going to be going out to viewership today, Jack, but you made it in. I'm here, and at least we'll be talking about sports.
I'm on my backup system, Mac. Think of it as the lights that went out, and they have a backup system to provide some lights. I don't know how well people can hear me. Just turn the darn volume up if you don't hear me. If you don't like hearing me, keep it low the way you normally do.
Yes, there you go. You got options. One other programming note: we are now officially National Streaming Sports on our Roku channel. It's a lot easier to get to, Jack. All you got to do is download the free Roku app and channel search National Streaming Sports, and it's right there in the app category. NESSP will pop up, so we're making it even easier for people to get to us on the Roku channel. So that's the big thing. We'll have an intro coming. It's going to be all cool. We're going as we switch over from Northeast Streaming Sports to National Streaming Sports. So, Jack, I know you love contract talk. And a rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams, waits to sign his contract after training camp, officially starts for the Bears. And just by a matter of coincidence, I guess, that's when Hard Knocks starts up for the Bears as their training camp. So everybody could see him signing his 4-year, $39 million guaranteed contract on there. Couple things in the Caleb camp wanted to do, all were denied. But it was the team that kind of went out of the box. 2 of the 3 proposals were not against the bargaining agreement, so there was a shot that maybe they could get it in. But the first one was he wanted no franchise tag applied to him at all after his 4th year going through the 5th season. The Bears disagreed with that. They said, we're not doing that. We should be able to, use the franchise tag. So that was the first thing he tried with his team to negotiate the contract. The second thing was he wanted his contract paid as an LLC. Now, in Illinois, LLC is tax exempt. So he was going to get every penny of that contract without paying taxes. So that's one thing that the team wanted to do. The third thing, which was the most interesting thing, is they wanted it as a loan, paid as a loan. And let me get the exact terms for you here. Was signed as a loan payment, so that again he had 10 years down the road to pay taxes. So the Bears sent it to the NFL. NFL said, no, we ain't doing either one of those. So this is 2 of the things, 3 things, 2 being not against the bargaining agreement that the young quarterback's camp or his team tried to do. So pretty interesting.
No, that's okay. Caleb Williams is trying to increase his brand, get as much as he can. He anticipates being a great player. He's inhibited a bit by the rookie deal. It goes back to Jamarcus Russell, who signed for a fortune of money with the Raiders and didn't pan out. And then they saw all these rookies were getting big money and they were completely unproven. They were getting, these high draft choices, more money than some of the franchise quarterbacks at the time. That's why they put the rookie scale in place. And no one could fault Caleb Williams. It wasn't affecting him taking the field. It's fun stuff to talk about, a little drama. You can't blame him for trying to get as much as he could, but he wasn't holding out anything like that.
Right. So let's welcome in Keith Angle from DGI Sports Talk. Keith, with the blue screen of death out there, I was wondering whether you'd make it in or not, affecting all these different people, including the media outlets. Of course, we're not as big as ESPN. We'll get there one day, but you're in, and I'm happy. Good to see you this morning.
Good to see you guys.
Hey, Keith.
So Keith, I mentioned the contract. Jack is infatuated with contracts. I mean, I think he should have been an agent. Maybe he was an agent in a past life because he loves talking about contracts. I know you love talking about college football. So me and Jack went over this a little bit during one of the shows this week, and it's about Kirby Smart, the head coach of Georgia. The 19th auto violation by one of his players since the beginning of this year. And of course, we had the Philadelphia Eagles tackle, what's his name? That they ended up in a car crash that ended up killing a couple people. So Kirby Smart came out and said they're doing everything by the book. They're suspending people, that they're turning them away. Why would his college, if they're doing everything they can, be the only one that has this many violations, for the Georgia amongst his players?
Well, first of all, I'll say he has the most reported violations. Let's start there. Because again, a lot of these things don't come to light until you get to be in the big time. Kirby Smart's big time. He's the highest paid coach, and Georgia is arguably the number one program in college football over the past 5 years, and you're going to have a spotlight on you. And you've got to understand that as a coach as well. So again, regardless of my opening comment where, there's probably other programs that have got, some kind of situations going on. You've got to know that you've got a spotlight on you, and you've got to have a little more institutional control over what's going on. Now, you can only control young kids to a certain point when they're away from the school and the field and the locker room and the classroom. So theoretically, the classroom. But I think you've got to do a better job than Kirby's done here, because this is not a good look for Georgia over the past. Really, this is going back. You talked about a lot of stuff. It goes back like 4 years now.
But Keith, you suspend the player for the season. It gets his point across to the other players. Like, we go back into the past to a coach like Bear Bryant. Joe Namath missed the curfew. He wasn't stopped driving while intoxicated. He missed curfew, came back late, and Bear Bryant made him miss a bowl game. Sorry, you broke the rules. You can't play. And that was a star quarterback he disciplined. And Bear Bryant had enormous respect, and they wouldn't take advantage of him because they understood the players. We foul up one time, there are going to be repercussions. It's one thing if a player's driving somewhere and he has a flat tire, something beyond his control. Yet you show a degree of understanding, of course. But what's going on at Georgia over and over, I don't want to hear they're suspended for 2 games. I don't want to hear that they apologize, that they're really good kids who just made a mistake and we want to work with them. Of course you want to work with them. Suspend them, if not the whole season, suspend them 4 games or something like that. Really make it hurt. But they don't do that.
In theory, I don't disagree with you that coaches could be tougher. Times were different, but again, times are different now. Kids are different now. We're a litigious society, and there'd be lawsuits right and left. And I don't even know how effective it is. They watch. as their teammates go out and get in accidents and people are killed here and in the NFL with Henry Ruggs and I can't think of the Georgia kid's name myself now.
Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter, right?
Carter, right. And I mean, we see these stories. It feels like weekly where these tragedies happen, and that doesn't wake kids up. I don't think even a year's suspension. I don't know that it's going to have that much of effect. And you'd see kids going to taking programs and coaches to court. Guaranteed that that's what would happen. And I'm not saying I agree with that. We should be able, and you can't coach kids the same way. You look at a kid funny and he's, going crying to everybody and their brother because kids just aren't as tough. Sorry. They want to grow up. They want to have everything. They're entitled to they think they're entitled to everything without working for it. And you can't look at them cross-eyed without causing a problem.
Let me ask you a question because, I remember Byron, I don't know if it's Byron Williams or it was Jim Jeffco, I think, told me that Bill Parcells would not draft players for certain college teams, and that it was a character issue. So let's take that another step.
Yeah.
So do you think that maybe recruiting, they're not looking, they're more concerned about the athleticism and that what that kid can do for their football team than that character, the situation that they're coming from, that maybe they're recruiting these young high school kids and they're products of their environment, a lot of them, and they should know. There should be a heads up coming in. Hey, wait, this young guy was in this type of environment, so I got to put somebody on this young man, that to be a mentor or a tutor or something, so that he doesn't do this type of stuff. I mean, they're making enough money; they sure could do that.
I agree, and I do believe they turn their heads in certain instances because the kid's got so much talent. But again, that's not a new thing. The one name that pops in my head is Lawrence Phillips at Nebraska. Everybody knew he was a bad kid. They knew he was a bad kid in college. They knew he was a bad kid coming into college and going into the NFL even. And everybody looks the other way because he had so much talent. And there's dozens of instances like that. And college coaches, you're right. I think they need to be better because this isn't just about, I get into these conversations a lot when I'm talking about college football on my shows, and college football coaches, their job isn't necessarily just to generate people into the NFL. I'm sorry, it's not. It's to make people better as they head into society. That's part of.
Okay, if they want to win games, they're not.
I didn't say that's what they want to do.
Of course, they want them to be good citizens, but first they want to hold on to their own darn jobs, and they want to win.
I don't disagree, but part of the problem that we're trying to address here is the fact that they need to look at it from that standpoint. They wanted back in the day. Bear Bryant wanted to win games as bad as anybody else. Woody Hayes wanted to win games as bad as anybody else, and go on and on. Right. But they're also interested in turning out positive people for society as well. And that's not the same anymore.
Let me give you an example of a modern day coach. I think that Nick Saban had those kids believing in becoming good teammates, good individuals. No doubt his recruiting was good, but you didn't hear a lot of Alabama players. In fact, I can't think of one. You probably do know one, Keith, that really got in this type of trouble. I mean, not
Henry Ruggs.
Henry Ruggs. Okay. There's one.
You know what Saban's excuse was with Henry Ruggs? Well, why didn't someone take away his keys? He'll say, okay, Henry Ruggs had a responsibility, but other people did too. He didn't pinpoint his player. Once again, Saban didn't take accountability. That it was his player who really screwed up. He blamed others. Someone could have taken his keys away.
That's a good point.
To an extent, though, I think Mac is right. There are coaches out there are trying to make kids accountable. And Nick Saban, I think he tries. You cannot get through to every single kid. And maybe, Henry Ruggs incident, I don't know what his reputation was coming into Alabama or even leaving it, quite frankly. But I've seen enough of guys like Saban to know there are some guys out there who want to make kids into better people, they can't always succeed. Who's going to succeed 100% of the time? They're not going to succeed at making them great players 100% of the time, much less great people. So there should
Chris,
be more.
Good morning, Chris. Friend of Michigan.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, Jack. Let me read the comment. He was asked the coach something about life. Coach rolled his eyes and said the topic had nothing to do with baseball.
Well, enough with the generic talk on this. Like specifically, Jordan Addison, the Viking wide receiver, has been in the NFL 1 year. He just got into trouble again for the second time, and the Viking coach Kevin O'Connell has a steadfast rule. You get in trouble, guys are supposed to be cut, but because Jordan Addison was a first-round draft choice, we're going to hear, well, Jordan realized he made a mistake. He's working towards correcting it. We're going to hear all type of excuses. Maybe he'll get a slap on the wrist. Maybe they'll suspend him for 1 game so Kevin O'Connell will save face. But what's being done? These are 2 incidents with Jordan Addison already.
Good point.
Yeah, but at what point are guys, again, they have to be accountable for themselves. We're blaming coaches. We're young adults by the time they get to college, or at least a few years into college. Guys have to be accountable for their own actions as well, right?
And listen, I agree with that, but how are they going to be held accountable? How are they going to be held accountable if that head coach doesn't come down on them? I mean, what's to be accountable about? I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's something
don't get trouble.
Well, I agree. I agree with that. So we have a quarterback that has coming into his 6th year because of injuries. The Iowa State quarterback, McNamara, says he's 100%, Keith. The quarterback Michigan was replaced by J.J. McCarthy. He was a good quarterback at Michigan. Do you think this guy is not only going to help Iowa maybe get a shot at getting into the playoffs, but is he a good enough quarterback to go on to the NFL and maybe do something there?
Can he help this team this year in college? Potentially, sure. His NFL career would be another story. I mean, you move around and don't play in a lot of places for a lot of reasons. Played behind a great quarterback at J.J. McCarthy, but that's not the only reason that he's moved around from a couple of different programs, right? And if you're there for a 6th year, chances are, there's a reason you're there in college as long as you are. Sometimes it's injuries, like with Michael Penix and whatnot, but most of these kids who are there for a 6th year, 7th year, and 9th year in the instance of a tight end at Miami, which boggles my mind. There's a reason you're still in college and not playing in the pros. So I doubt he's going to have much of it. Again, guys bloom late, but right as we stand here right now, I'm going to tell you, I don't think he's going to have much of an impact in the NFL. He could have an impact this year. That league is wide open. Right. So I think he could have an impact in that league for sure.
Okay. All right. A little Bill Belichick news, of course, from what people close to him are saying, that's reported that he's still vested into getting back into the NFL next year as a coach. Of course, he's broadcasting with the NFL, a couple NFL shows out there. He'll be broadcasting with. He wants that record, Keith, and the Dolphin record. It would take a couple years for him to catch. Probably Don Shula, depending on where he goes, of course. It could be longer or shorter. Well, not shorter. He would have to win extra 4 games in the season. That's not possible. 18.
We all assume he wants to wreck it. He's never said anything about it.
I believe he does.
I mean, we don't know how badly he does. He might think to himself, I have the Super Bowl record. I want to enjoy life. It's a young way of thinking, Mac. Oh, he wants to wreck it. I've never heard him express that.
He does.
We would assume that. Anyone would want to wreck it. You're just going on an assumption of human nature that everyone wants to wreck it.
There's evidence of that.
What evidence?
Well, did he try to get a job in the NFL last year?
He loves coaching. It's what he does. He's a junkie when it comes to coaching.
He loves coaching. He's a great coach. I'm saying there's evidence of it, Jack. If he's what you said, he would have went out of the NFL, said, I'm retired. I would have signed a long deal maybe with the NFL or looked for a long-term deal with an NFL broadcasting company and said, I'm done.
He still loves to challenge. He might still love to challenge a coaching,
Well,
but it's
that
not about a record.
challenge-
It's not about coaching.
Well, Jack, wait a minute, Keith. I'm sorry, Keith, because this happens now and then, Jack, let me ask you a question. You think Bill Belichick wants the coach to go 3-15?
No, everyone
Why
wants
not?
to win.
Why not? He
I'll go
likes
a
the
step further.
challenge.
Wait,
He
wait,
likes
wait.
the challenge, Jack. He likes the challenge. Why doesn't he go coach college? Why doesn't he go coach at high school? Why not?
He's an NFL guy. If he's
Well, why?
gonna coach, he's not gonna
Why?
go
There's
to
NFL
college.
coaches that have. There are NFL coaches that have gone back to college.
But
I
he
mean,
doesn't want to. A lot of
Well, how do you
NFL
know that?
coaches
How do you?
don't
Wait a
want to
minute.
go back
You
to
asked me how
college.
I know that. You asked me how I know that he wants to record. How do you know he doesn't want to coach college? You talked to him about it?
Because
All right, then.
there's a
The
secret
evidence-
job in college.
The evidence is he didn't leave New England on his own accord. They told him to go. He was looking to get a job with the Atlanta Falcons. To do what? To continue coaching and break Shula's record. He will be back next year.
He would have been with one of
Try
the
to
worst
break-
teams in football with New England if he stayed. But he wasn't going to resign from New England to go to a team with a better chance of winning. He could have left on his own accord and think, I have to go to a better team. I'm going to look for a job elsewhere.
Actually, that's not true because he
Keith is
paid
the Patriots.
from coaching if he just left of his own accord. So that's not true either. So that's clear. They could have
So
kept
Keith,
him
you're
from.
the Patriots.
No, well, they would have let him
Yes.
go.
They
Kraft would
don't
have
have
let
to-
Belichick go if he wanted to. He wasn't going to force him to stay.
I didn't say they're going to force him to stay. If he decided to leave of his own accord,
He would have talked with Robert Kraft, and Kraft would have done the same
You know a lot
thing
of
he did with
would-haves.
Brady.
You know a lot of would-haves, but we can't use would-haves. I don't know why. Only-
You know the way Robert Kraft does business. He wasn't going to tie Belichick up
Listen.
into staying with New England, especially the way New England's been doing the last few years.
I will tell you
And
this.
whose fault was that?
I
Whose
will
fault was the New England doing what he does? Go ahead.
I
Sorry,
will
Keith.
tell you this. I watched this team and Bill Belichick very closely for a long, long time. I love Bill Belichick. I've had a lot of problems with him the last couple of years, which I've talked about. There's no doubt in my mind he thinks and always thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and he wants to be recognized as such. And he wants to come back and coach again, definitely. And I have no doubt because human nature says, I want that record. Anybody would say, I want
Human nature. I agree, but Keith, you're not, as much as I respect you, and I have a ton of respect for you, you're
thank
not the ultimate authority on Belichick. You're the same
Didn't say
guy
I
1
was.
year ago when I said
say I
he could
was.
get fired with a bad season. You went, oh, no, Belichick is safe no matter what.
Listen, I always admit when I'm wrong. I was wrong. I've been wrong more than once. That's not the only time I've been wrong. Listen, he's a if he doesn't want the record, why is he not talking about taking over a team and rebuilding it? The only teams we ever hear him mentioned with are teams that are positioned to win games now. The Eagles, the Bills, the Cowboys. That's the teams that are, I mean, again, there could be other teams in play, but that's who we hear about. And again, we only know what we hear. I can't read his mind. I can't read your mind even, Jack, but I don't need to because it's all out there.
Yes. So I love it how Jack said he wouldn't stick Bill Belichick with a bad team, and the reason why the team was bad was because of Bill Belichick. That was a great point.
Well, in part, the last few
That
years,
was, oh, get out
Belichick
of here.
would take
Get
any NFL job now.
Get out of here.
Hypothetically, if a job opened up with the Carolina Panthers and he was offered it, and assuming he wants to get back into coaching, Bill Belichick would take that job. He wouldn't think,
Oh, no,
Panthers make it harder for me to get the record, so I'm not taking that job. He would take any NFL head coaching
Oh, no, he
job
wouldn't.
now.
Oh,
Any
no, he wouldn't.
No way. He's not going to coach that guy. With apologies to Sonia, he's not coaching for that owner. I can tell you right now. He's not.
Oh, well, he'd have to be comfortable with the owner, obviously. That's in any line of work.
And that's why I have doubts with the Cowboys, to be quite honest with you, because he's not going to get along with Jerry Jones. I mean, that's
I
gonna
think
be,
he would. Bill
know-
Parcells got along with Jerry Jones.
If he
Belichick-
goes, I don't know if Parcells got along with Jerry Jones or not. I think I don't know. But the thing about him going to Dallas, it would be Bill Belichick following Bill Parcells again. If I'm Bill Belichick, I wouldn't do it. I would.
Well-
Well, yeah, wait, Mac. Aaron Rodgers
win.
followed Brett Favre with the Jets, going to that organization. No
I'm
one
just saying, I
makes
wouldn't.
that
I
link.
wouldn't do it.
You know what, though? On the counter side of that comment, Mac, he may want to go there and say, I want to win a Super Bowl with the Cowboys. Parcells couldn't do it.
Maybe that's. Hey, good morning, CJ. Glad to have you around.
Going into
Your thoughts
TC. What's TC?
Training camp. Training camp.
Oh, training camp. Sorry, I'm a step behind. I lost.
Yes,
a
yes,
little,
yes.
It's I don't know, CJ. I mean, I'd like to hear your opinion on it too, because it's an intriguing division. If New England's a lot better than we think they're going to be, something has to give. You figure Buffalo, Miami are going to be there. I mean, the Jets' defense is too good. They've made the adjustments, the offensive line. They drafted a couple of even running backs. They've addressed the wide receiver cause. They got a competent backup quarterback in Tyrod Taylor. I mean, Jets should be okay, but 10-7 and getting eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, first game of the playoffs, is that considered a satisfactory season? Because remember, just 1 year ago, anything short of the Super Bowl was going to be considered a little bit of a disappointment, because we were all excited with the arrival of Aaron Rodgers. Is making the playoffs just enough now? That's the question. I think all of our expectations have went down a little bit. I think now if the Jets make the playoffs and get bumped in the first game, we could say, well,
wait. Why have our expectations gone down? What caused our expectations to go down, Jack? Last year, Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, had a down year against the Green Bay Packers the last year, and everything was given to Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people predicted him to go to Super Bowl. What has changed from last year to this year?
A lot of people aren't predicting they go to the Super Bowl. They were at least a co-favorite last year to go to the Super Bowl. Now the Chiefs are basically the consensus favorites. And right behind the Chiefs, people are talking about the Baltimore Ravens. Some people are talking about even the Houston Texans.
They're not talking about
the
Baltimore Ravens. They're not talking.
And it's
they're talking about the Jets just as much as they did last year. You're not
quite.
Because you're a fan.
Quite.
You're trying to temper.
Right.
You're trying to temper the expectations, Jack, of yourself. You're going to be fine with that. Jet fans aren't going to be fine with that. And neither are the other people that predicted that. Keith predicted the Jets last year were going to the Super Bowl.
And I don't think Keith's expectations are quite as high.
I don't think
they were last year. Let's hear what Keith has to say.
I'm going to if you let him talk. Go ahead, Keith.
If Devontae Adams comes there, as is getting rumors are going higher and higher, hotter and hotter, I would expect no less than a Super Bowl would be expected by fans. How can it not be? They're not going to be happy with just making the playoffs. I don't think they got to win a game at least. I mean, are my expectations as high? Not really, because I got a 41-year-old quarterback who missed a year with a ruptured Achilles.
I don't mean happy, Keith, Mac. I don't mean Jet fans are going to be satisfied getting to the playoffs, losing the first game. I just don't think it would be as big a disappointment as it would have been a year ago. That's the point I'm trying to make. Last year, if they made the playoffs, it was thought of as a gimme. They're going to make the playoffs and make a Super Bowl run. So to get eliminated in the playoffs in the first game would have been a big disappointment. Now, I don't think it would be as big a disappointment. That's what I'm trying to say.
Maybe because of the shock of last year of him getting hurt and knocked out, and maybe they just will be happy if Aaron Rodgers makes it to the end of the season. I could see that being a hope, but I don't see where the expectations of how good the team is and how good they match up with the other teams in AFC has changed. The expectation, hopefully, that Aaron Rodgers remains healthy all year. That would be happy. The Jets would be happy with that. But are they happy with going 9-8, making a wild card?
No. 9-8 would be a big disappointment. Got to go at least 10-7. Just go 9-8. That's mediocre. That's basically 500. At least 10-7. 11-6. And let's say the Jets go 11-6 and win one playoff game and then get eliminated. I don't think the fan base would be upset. I think the fan base would
Oh,
say,
I
hey,
see.
we had a decent year. We didn't get to where we wanted to go, but we had a decent year.
Keith, let's get you, since you're our guest, let's get your thoughts. Jack always acts like he's my guest. He's my
Again, my expectations would be tempered a little bit. If I was a Jet fan, they'd be tempered anyway because I haven't been to a Super Bowl in 55 years, so I don't know that I get too excited anyway. But I wanted to go back to Danny Fuller's comment, but we'll save that for another time.
oh,
If I'm a Jet fan, I do have high expectations still.
Of course you
I have
do.
Aaron Rodgers. He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the game. I'd be as me myself. I'm a little more cautious because of the injury, but because if it happens again, I'm not sure Tyrod Taylor is any better than what they had last year. But
Oh, he's definitely better. Oh, come on, he's better than Zach.
he's won a lot of playoff games.
Oh,
Tyler.
Tyrod, Zach Wilson, I got to say it now. I mean, I thought he'd be better than he was. He was awful. He was so horrendous. He had a couple of good games, one good game in the losing effort against the Chiefs where he really looked good. Maybe Sean Payton could develop him into something. I doubt it, but he was awful, Zach Wilson.
He never got a chance to succeed. They played behind a horrible offensive line.
Yeah.
Any good? He may be no good, but he's played behind a horrible offensive line.
Maybe he'll develop. I mean, maybe, but he had to go.
There's so many excuses why these young quarterbacks don't make it, right? I mean, a lot of people are about Daniel Jones. He's never had a good offensive line. Nonsense. I'm tired of that. Mac Jones didn't have. I'm tired of it. Listen, if you're a playmaker, if you're a good enough quarterback, like Joe Burrows was, listen. Patrick Mahomes' offensive line wasn't that great last year either. In fact, it's pretty poor. He was getting sacked and he was throwing interceptions. So listen, we can't just keep saying it's the offensive line. We can't just keep saying that.
No, it's also coaching. It's also it's also coaching and not putting a guy in position to succeed.
I agree with you.
Tom Brady.
Well, let's just stop saying they had a terrible offensive line. There's not there's not too many good offensive lines in the league. There really isn't. They're pretty poor.
Piece of it, though. Again, if you don't put a young quarterback, and that's where I was actually going, if you don't put a young quarterback in a position to succeed with a good line and play calling that doesn't ask him to do too much, and the Jets didn't put Zach Wilson in that position from the very beginning. Look back at the beginning of the Patriots dynasty and Tom Brady, what he was asked to do. Nothing except manage a game and don't lose it for us, basically for 2 years.
Right. And then I could show the opposite, and I could talk about Joe Burrows with a terrible offensive line going to the championship. Right?
Great coach, too, and a great coach. And great.
I'm just
well, guys, it's all about investing. When you have a top draft pick, you stick with him. If Zach Wilson was a 7th-round draft choice, okay, the Jets would have gotten rid of him. He wasn't going to be hanging around, but he was number 2 overall in the draft. So those guys are always going to have a spot in the league. That's why it's with Denver. If Zach Wilson was an undrafted player, you think Sean Payton would have picked him up from the Jets? No way. But because he went number 2 overall, you feel you're getting value for practically nothing. And Denver did give up a little for Zach Wilson. They paid half his salary, about $3.5 million, and they flip-flopped a 6th round for 7th round draft choice. So they actually did give the Jets a little bit.
We're spending way too much time on Zach Wilson.
Well, 2 former Jets. Listen, 2 former Jets starting quarterbacks, Geno Smith and Sam Darnold, are starting for other teams in the NFL. So you never know the way guys can, rebuild their career at some point.
Yeah,
there is a lower expectation, maybe because of Randall Cobb may retire. So if Randall Cobb retires this year,
he was awful last year with the Jets.
I guess the Jets will have a worse.
Let's get this breaking news.
He's retired for a few years, not officially, but anyway. So
Aaron Rodgers guy, that's why it's with the Jets. I mean, he had a good NFL career. Kudos to him, though. He had a good career. We should pay tribute to him. What he did with the Packers.
Yeah, he was awesome. Anyway, NBA, a couple contracts that they were talking about that probably could go sideways One was the last one of the last big stars, which was of course Paul George. Paul George is getting 56,586,000 plus a year with a player option. He's had that max contract with the 76ers. He's up there. He's 34 years old. At the end of this, he's going to be making a lot of money as an older player. I think the pressure is pretty much on the 76ers to win a champion, to make this trade valuable. He's a number 3 option. I mean, it's not like he's number 1, number 2 option. He's a number 3 option on a 76.
Man, he might be the number 2 option.
Jack, let me finish. Behind Embiid and behind Maxey, he's the number 3 option right now. So he's the highest paid number 3 option besides Diddy over there, who Dinwiddie over there that is making almost $60 million a year.
Don't say Diddy.
Diddy. Anyway, the point is, if they win a championship in the next 2 years, okay, maybe the contract's worth it. If they don't, I mean, that's a lot of money for a number 3. So that's one of the contracts I have a problem with.
Yeah, I thought you'd have a problem, Mac. He wasn't staying with the Clippers. The Clippers would have offered him about $140 million less. And he said he wanted to be a Clipper, and he had a chance to prove it by leaving $140 million on the table. Mac,
That's how you like to think. I think I covered the whole LA Clipper, Paul George. Let me finish. The whole Paul George contract with the Clipper, what happened there. In fact, I'm the one that told you what happened.
You did tell me. Kudos to you. I give you credit for that. But there's more to it than him just performing for the 76ers immediately. The 76ers are keenly aware they got to keep Joel Embiid happy. If they did nothing at all, Embiid at some point, and it could have happened this season, could have said, I want to go elsewhere, and they'd be forced to rebuild and trade him for a ton of draft choices, and they didn't want to do that because Embiid is the player that makes him relevant. So you add on Paul George, you're showing Joel Embiid, you're all in on winning now, and that way Joel Embiid will be all in on the 76ers. That's what this move is to a large degree also. So
Chris comes out and says, money contract, our hot dogs and nachos are $30 a game. Chris, don't.
Mac brings his own food to the game.
Don't buy no food. Don't go to the game. I mean, that's the only way them prices are going to come down. People got to boycott, but they're not going to do that. So anyway, it's a bogus point. Everybody talks about.
Never.
I don't like.
Let's talk about the second. Let's talk about the second contract that could be a anchor with the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, you have Anthony Davis, who's making I think it's around 43 million this year, but it will be 62 million by 27-28. And he's averaged 52 games a year because of his injuries, number one. And number two, the Lakers aren't going anywhere. I think that's a terrible contract.
I'm not sure, guys, that the Lakers aren't going anywhere. I understand the West is tough. I'm not picking them to win it. They lost to Denver in 5 games last year, but Denver was defending champions, an elite team. Keep this in mind. The Lakers did win an NBA championship with the duo of LeBron and Anthony Davis. And I want to hear about, Keith is about to say, well, it was a short season because of the pandemic. Bottom line, they went through the playoffs. The playoffs weren't shortened. And, let's see what they can add to the mix going forward. But Anthony Davis is a great, great talent. We don't know whether he's going to be healthy going forward or not. He has somewhat of an injury history. But when he's at his best, I can argue he's one of the top players in the game. And I don't think I'm going to get much dispute about that when he's at his best. And Anthony Davis doesn't dog it. He seems to be a team player who's all in. So what choice do the Lakers have? You tell me they're not going, they shouldn't sign and just let him go elsewhere?
That's an LA fan talking right there, by the way.
They won a championship a few years ago, the Lakers. Give me a break.
In the
When
bubble.
did the Knicks last win a championship? The Lakers won the NBA title with their two best players on the roster right now, LeBron and Anthony Davis.
They also won the midseason title too.
I think that
Oh, yeah. Hey, how do you like that? That's like a bone, a little consolation thing. But when you think of it, we don't know years from now, this in-season tournament, it seems like it's all nonsense, a game. But you never know how something like that could take on historical significance down the line, even though I don't think it will like that.
It could.
historical significance.
Yeah.
Really? Come on.
Okay. All right. So those are the two contracts that I wanted to talk about. Adam Silver is talking about expansion. He says he'll discuss it in fall. The NBA just signed the 11-year, $76 billion with media rights to top. Jack, calm down, relax.
No. You make a good point.
Wait. I didn't finish. I didn't make my point yet. So anyway, the Adam Silver, the two top cities that are involved in this possible expansion is, of course, the Seattle Supersonics. The name, the city still has a name, and Las Vegas is the other one. Those are the top two. Mexico City, Vancouver, and I think it's Montreal are also included in the discussions. I wouldn't be surprised to see Seattle get their team back. I think will definitely happen this year.
Couple of things with the NBA. Did you guys read about Camden, New Jersey? New Jersey's trying to lure the Philadelphia 76ers to come over and play in Camden, New Jersey. Now, I kind of wonder, let's say the Sixers got such a wonderful sweetheart deal and they went there. Can they still be called the Philadelphia 76ers if they played in Camden? Because the Jets and Giants are called New York and they play in Jersey. Is that possible? Did keep the Philly fan base, they play in Camden, but they're called the Philadelphia 76ers?
Philly might have a problem with that, but yes, I mean, history says you can do that. The two New York teams, obviously, being the best example.
Okay, and also Pat Williams, great GM, passed away at the age of 84, had a glorious NBA career, and especially being a key figure in the Orlando Magic's existence. He was great in the lottery, lucky in the lottery to be able to draft, the Magic, Shaq, Penny Hardaway, and so on. And great basketball guy, great GM. He was an amazing man. He was involved in so many endeavors.
He was.
And he passed away, yeah.
Before Keith gets out of here, I wanted to let him know that the MLB All-Star viewership went up last game, and the Home Run Derby viewership went down as I predicted, without Ohtani or Judge in there. I don't know who that LA Dodger guy is really, but so it did go up a little bit, especially on Deportes. It looks like the Spanish speaking people, the Hispanic, their viewership went way up. So there you go. So maybe it starts something where the MLB All-Star starts becoming game starts becoming a little bit more relevant again.
I hope so. Me
too. Real quick, Keith, I don't know if you want to get out of here. You want to stick around? I know you got an interview.
You need to get going, so I can got to take care of something before I do my interview at 9.
All right, Keith, take care of a couple things. Jack was very excited this morning.
Well, Danny's comment was he wants some of my coffee. I think we should have given him some of Jack's coffee. Actually,
I got to get to certain points. I mean,
Yes. Danny did make a
thanks, Danny.
Jack. All right. Hey. Keith, have a good one. TGI Sports, a national streaming sports Roku channel. Keith Engel, have a good one, Keith. We'll see you soon.
See you Sunday. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. All right, Keith Engel, thank you for coming in today. Danny Foley says it was the only thing on TV. Danny, don't you have Netflix or anything like that over there? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting. The All-Star game was opposite the Republican National Convention. And, some people like sports and the news. So you don't have to watch the game. I mean, the All-Star game to me is boring at this point. If they want to watch it, watch it. You could take a break from baseball. How many of the players, Mac, who didn't make the All-Star team, the vast majority of Major League players didn't make the team, how many of them do you think are actually watching the game? They like the idea of having a few days off and not having anything to do with baseball. I mean, some of them are going to the gym, working out, keeping in shape for when they come back. But I think most of them, I guess, would take that time to just get away from it all, not even watch the game. Maybe, they're home, they'll put the TV on. But I'm sure they're doing other things while the game's happening.
I don't know. As I said before, it's probably the best all-pro, all-star event because it's individual. Basketball is an individual event. They want to hit the ball. They want the pitcher going in, wants to throw his best for that one inning. I mean, I think you get the best out of every player as opposed to the NBA pickup game where they pick teams now. They do the same thing in the NHL. They pick their own teams. It used to be Atlantic against the Pacific or East versus West or whatever. And, of course, football is nothing but flag football and pads right now. So, I mean, I think that's the only game that really the players actually try. You could be down 10-0, Jack. You get your first shot in an all-star game and you're at the plate. You don't care if you're down 10-0. You want to get a hit, right? And I think that's where it's different. So if you're going to watch an all-star, all-pro game, I think Captain Jack said he watched it. He was on Wednesday night. He said it was a good game. So, who knows? I mean, maybe this is something that might grow compared to the other options is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I kind of remember what John Sterling said a lot of years ago about baseball being a very selfish game. Batter's always going to want to get a hit no matter what the score is. You could be down 15-2. Right. Coming up in the last inning, you want to hit just to pad your own statistics.
Sure.
You might not make the extra effort. You might not try to steal a base. You might not be giving that 100%, but you're going to be trying no matter what in baseball.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I think it's still a decent representation of an all-star, all-pro compared
Mac,
to the others.
We never discussed this. Of all the sports, what is the greatest stat-oriented sport where we're most concerned about stats? I would guess off the top of my head would be baseball, batting average, RBIs, because when we judge a player, we tend to judge them on stats more than anything else. And it could be a mistake on our part. I'm not saying it's right, completely. But even basketball, if a player doesn't have really good stats and we know he's really a grinder on defense, really, really is good on defense, we kind of consider that like a player on the Celtics like Drew Holiday. We don't really look at his stats. We say, oh, he's a really good defender. He does this, he does that. But something about baseball, we look at the stats.
Sure. It's more individual game than probably any major sports out there besides boxing, right? I mean, boxing would be the greatest individual sport, where baseball, because of hitting, is more individual than any other sport. And that's the record. And baseball has always been about stats. But I want to talk about something here that I hardly ever talk about. It's soccer. First, Spain did beat England in the European Cup. Big news for soccer fans. Also, a 14-year-old got into a game, the youngest player ever. He's just going into.
He has a man's face. He looks
Doesn't
old.
he?
Yeah. Go
But
ahead,
there's one thing. There's one thing I want to get to you about, and this is a article I came across, and this sounds like a great book to read. It's called Salute, and it's about the when Nazis started coming into effect. 1938, they host England at their stadium, and this one young Jewish kid, let me get his name for you, Rolf Freeman. His family left him in Germany and fled. And he went to the game and stood outside the stadium and waited for the English players to come out. And he ended up hooking up with a British soccer player called Bert Sproston, Spraston, and told him, "Listen, if I don't get out of Germany, I'm going to be killed. I'm going to get killed." Sproston, using his connections, in soccer ended up getting him a visa to the game in England, and that's how he got out of the country.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Salute. The book. It's by John Leonard. If anybody wants to check it out, these two kept up their relationship, of course, after everything was over till Sprotson died, I think, in 2000, and their families are still close. And here's sports, and we don't like to talk about sports and politics, but when it's extreme like this, it's just a great story. So
Yeah.
if anybody wants to check it out, again, it's called Salute by John Leonard, and it seems like a great story. I might check it out anyway. So yes, we all love boxing. We all love boxing back in the day. And Jack, it seems that Ryan Garcia had another incident. He is charged with vandalism at the Waldorf Astoria in Hollywood to add to his incidents since he got announced his divorce and lost the fight and money and everything went crazy. And it's just a downward spiral for this guy. I mean, do you remember in the boxing, you know everything I mean, you're one of the most premier experts in boxing with all your knowledge. Have you ever heard of something like this, that just a loss or a personal thing just spiraled a boxer out of control?
Well, Mike Tyson was completely out of control. I mean, when he was in his prime, and it was getting worse and worse. And no one would have thought Mike Tyson would have been to the point that he was at today, a really good citizen, married, has a family, is somewhat, pretty stable, more stable than not. I mean, who would have thought that he would have survived all that? I mean, he seemed, if anyone was on their way to complete self-destruction, it was him. Yet he somehow weathered it, and survived it. And look at him today. I mean, but Ryan Garcia, it's a mess. I mean, hopefully with age comes maturity, and he doesn't get into such bad trouble in the meantime where he gets killed or winds up getting incarcerated, for a long time. He acted very unusual, strange before the Devin Haney fight. And then after he beats Haney, some people were saying, even my partner in Bluffers, Frank Latour, said, well, it was all an act by Garcia. I never thought it was an act. Just because he beat Haney, it doesn't mean it was an act. And by the way, the victory was taken away because he tested positive for substance abuse. So I'm going to change that just because he beat Haney up. Okay? And but you just hope for the best that he can, weather the storm. And everyone's going to talk about the way they want to help him, but also there's business interests. Ryan Garcia is charismatic. He could generate a lot of money, and he's a personality, which makes him one of the biggest names in boxing now because he's a personality, and not to mention a heck of a good fighter.
Yeah, that's very true, and a great example. I know Mike Tyson actually got arrested, so there is examples of that. Mike Tyson being the most recent. There is a quick note about trademarking. Troy Aikman is trying to get a copyright trademark, whatever, on the number 8. He has a number 8 clothing wear and business thing, and right now Lamar Jackson is challenging that trademark because he also has a number 8. He's challenging the part for apparel, where Troy Aikman, of course, is number 8 when he was playing. Lamar, of course, number 8 when he's playing, for the apparel and bags. So Troy Aikman trying to trademark the number 8, which that's just, 8. I mean, how do you trademark a number? I mean,
that's Yogi Berra's number 8. I mean, come on.
Right. I mean, yeah. Why 8?
It shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be allowed. You know what happened? A fan once trademarked something that should have been Warren Sapp's. And the fan basically said, I'll give it to you back, but give me some money. And Warren Sapp said, I'm not giving him a penny. I'm just going to change so-and-so. The laws should change in that regard, that anyone shouldn't be able to trademark or copyright whatever the heck they want. There should be, I don't know what the alternative to that would be the alternative answer. But sometimes it's like so obvious, someone shouldn't be allowed. In this case, Aikman and Lamar Jackson's a little different because Aikman was number 8. Lamar Jackson's number 8. Mac, I don't know how many people notice their numbers. There's got to be something else about them. I mean, it doesn't pop into my head the number 8 Troy Aikman or Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I don't know, Jack. I know there's certain phrases that have you can't say let's get ready to you can't use let's get ready
to rumble. That was Michael Buffer's.
You can't use that.
You can't copyright. Well, he copyrighted that, I think.
Right, and and if you do, he will sue you. If you play that without his permission, he's done it. He'll sue you. So there are certain sayings, there are certain, things that McDonald's. I mean, if you try to open even if your name's McDonald and you try to open a restaurant and call it McDonald's, I've seen him sue people for that. And I think that's kind of wrong too, but whatever, that's the way it is. So there are certain things that are trademarked. I don't think you should be able to trademark it, trade or copyright or trademark numbers. That's kind of crazy. If you said number 8 Aikman or something, cool, but just number 8, and that's just
you shouldn't. I don't think you should be allowed. I agree, but
I don't think so.
I don't know the laws. I mean, if someone explains me the laws, maybe I'd change my view, but I just don't understand it.
Okay, we got like a few minutes here. Let me give you a couple of this week in history. Babe Ruth becomes the all-time home runner with 139 home runs. Of course, that was back in the 1920s. He ended up hitting 700. And folks, to tell you how great Babe Ruth was and how many home runs he could have had, when he was pitching with the Red Sox, he didn't bat every day. He batted when he pitched. There was no DH. So just to give you an idea of maybe how many more home runs Babe Ruth could have had if there was a DH back then. So that's how great this guy was. Let's see. San Francisco Giants Willie Mays gets his 3,000th career hit in 1970. Another great ball player. Jersey Joe Walcott becomes the oldest heavyweight champion at that time at age 37. And 1989, David Cone throws the 14th perfect game in Major League Baseball history. So those are some of the this week.
Yeah, it was odd when David Cone threw his perfect game. He threw it on Yogi Berra Day. Yogi Berra had this hiatus where he was away from the Yankees. He didn't want to go to the stadium because of Steinbrenner. Then Steinbrenner, after 14 years, reached out to Berra. He came to the museum in Jersey, and they buried the hatchet. And they had Yogi Berra Day, and they had Don Lawson in attendance, who Berra was Lawson's catch in the 55 World Series. He threw the perfect game. So there they are in the booth, Berra and Lawson watching David Cone throw the perfect game on Yogi Berra Day. What were the chances of that happening? Wow.
That's like too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence, right? It's like sometimes I think things happen for a reason. I mean, they're so odd, Jack, Go ahead. Let
me tell you one. One of the biggest days of my life that I loved was going to the first Ali Frazier fight. I sat in the last row. Such an impactful memory going to the fight as a kid. Such excitement. I always cherish the March 8th, 1971 date. Cherish that date. I had a grandson born 50 years to the day of the Ali Frazier fight. 50 years to the day? To the day?
Yeah.
50 years. I mean, unbelievable. What are the odds of that?
And your involvement being in the Boxing Hall of Fame.
Exactly. I call him the 50th anniversary kid.
Right?
That's his nickname, the 50th anniversary. He's going to wonder why his grandfather's always calling him the 50th anniversary kid. So he's going to have that emotional attachment to, the fight.
And I'm sure you'll show him that YouTube fight or whatever you got there on that, just to show what significance that is. The greatest, the fight of the century. Folks, thanks for joining us today. We'll be back on tomorrow with Sports Memories. Keith Angle is up next on Roku with Are You Serious for the great interview. Stick with Roku all day. Have a great Friday.